One of the most distinguishing architectural features of the Capital Wastelands is the Anchorage War Memorial. This giant sculpture depicting 3 United States military soldiers stands on the banks of the Potomac as a testament to the resplendence and excess of pre-war America. This statue is based on a photograph that the press took of soldiers during Operation Anchorage. We can actually relive this event when taking part in the Operation Anchorage simulation during the Operation Anchorage DLC.
Sir! Alright, boys. I'm gonna make you famous. Get yourselves into a heroic pose. Okay, that's it. Just like that. Hold still. Excellent. The Capitol Post thanks you. Who knows, maybe someone will turn this photo into a statue one day. Alright, you boys try not to die out there, okay? God bless you, and God bless the US of A.
Now, we can't say for sure that this event really happened this way, because we find out later that the simulation was highly edited by one of the generals, General Chase. So it very well could be that this is simply propaganda. Whether this pose really happened or not, the war against Communist China in 2066 certainly did, and the Americans were decisively victorious. This statue memorial stands in remembrance to the American soldiers who died and celebrates their bravery. But 200 years later, in the year 2277, the Anchorage War Memorial is no longer visited by American citizens and people remembering the soldiers that died. It is instead inhabited by mirelurks. We are sent here by Moira Brown to install a device that monitors these mirelurks to detect whether or not they are intelligent. We'll be covering that quest when I do my video on Chapter 2 of the Wasteland Survival Guide. But the insides of the Anchorage War Memorial are sprawling, and the place deserves a dedicated video in its own right. There are several entrances to this memorial. We will start by entering what will likely be the first door we see upon approaching from the west. This is the door to the Anchorage Memorial Facility. Immediately upon entry, we find that the path diverges. We can either go downstairs or turn left to go around a corner into a large utility room. As we enter the room, we see that it is patrolled by a mirelurk. There are 2 big pits cut into this floor that lead down to the lower floor that we can access using the stairway that we passed earlier. Down here we can spy more mirelurks, but there's a stairway that leads up to this floor, so if we're not careful, the mirelurks will come up to attack us. A sniper rifle comes in handy to take care of them before they get too close. Now, the quest that Moira sends us here to complete has an optional portion that gives us a greater reward if we don't kill any mirelurks. For those who want to kill the mirelurks for experience but also want to achieve the optional portion of the quest, it's good to clear the Anchorage War Memorial first before accepting Moira's quest. I didn't, so I completed Chapter 2 of the Wasteland Survival Guide and then came back here to clear all the mirelurks. As we explore this machine room, or is it a generator room, we discover some human remains. Inside the lab, we see the corpse of a wastelander lying on the ground. Directly above her is a pool of what is likely her own blood. The corpse is not in a state of decay, which means whatever killed her happened recently. It's likely she met her fate at the hands of these mirelurks, but why did the mirelurks appear all of a sudden? How many people inhabited this place before the mirelurks arrived? Moving on into the next room, we find another Wastelander corpse. We don't find anything interesting on their bodies, but we do find big pools of blood on the table, on the ground, and even on the bed. This tells us that this Wastelander was slaughtered in his sleep. The mattress is off the bed frame, which means there was quite a commotion in here, which might explain why the body has found itself several feet away from the bed. Now, we could hop down the holes or go down the stairway in this floor to reach the floor below, but instead we're going to wind our way back through the door in which we came and then down the stairway leading to the bottom floor. The mirelurk that was down here had already come upstairs, so we find this floor empty. But on the ground, we find the corpse of Ted. On his body is the note for Ted. Ted. The mirelurks busted out of the storage area and have been raising hell through the whole facility. Price says the bastards get smarter every day. He says I'm paranoid, but I think somebody might be sabotaging things around here. We've taken on so much extra help, I don't know who I can trust around here anymore. Things don't look too good. I don't think I'll be walking out of here, and I figure you should be the one to get our stash. I managed to get it hidden pretty well in case something like this happened. I don't want any of these damn fools tripping over it, so I threw a couple of curves in, but it's nothing you can't handle. Start with my terminal. Just log in and follow the instructions. And if for some reason you've forgotten the password, you might want to sit down and have a think with the Nuka-Cola, if you catch my drift. If this damn meat weren't in such high demand, I'd have pulled out of this racket before the word go. I got too greedy, Ted. But the letter is not signed. We don't know who this man is. But we learn why there are wastelanders here. It sounds as if these wastelanders were breeding and raising mirelurks for meat. The author says that the mirelurks busted out of a storage area, which tells us that the wastelanders were keeping them in a storage area where they raised them. He ends by saying that the price of this mirelurk meat is really good, which tells us they were slaughtering these mirelurks and selling the meat for profit. Business was good, which is why they were hiring so many people that the author doesn't even know all of them, which he thinks allowed a saboteur to infiltrate their ranks. He speculates that this saboteur may be responsible for releasing the mirelurks from their pen, which then, as we have seen, went on a rampage, killing people. But then he talked about a stash. Now, he doesn't say where this stash is, but he does say to sit down at the terminal with the Nuka-Cola. Alright, so I sat down at this terminal, and I didn't see anything. No sign on a wall, no hint on the terminal as to what he's talking about. But in the corner, we spy a Nuka-Cola machine. Heading on over and looting the machine, we find 3 Nuka-Cola inside, but that's it. So I did as I was told. I went back to the terminal, sat down, opened up a Nuka-Cola, and nothing. What insight was I supposed to glean by drinking a Nuka-Cola at this terminal? Frustrated, I got up and walked back over to the Nuka-Cola machine. It was then that I noticed the machine was not flush against the wall. Peering behind it, we find the access codes. There are 3 codes on here, and it grants us access to the author's terminal. At the very bottom of the terminal, we have an option to unlock the secure medical safe. Clicking on it unlocks the safe, and we read a note. Ted. Remember, I hid this stash for you to find. Don't trust anybody, especially anybody who works for me. Do this alone. I busted the storage door down near the service entrance. There's a floor safe in the clinic that contains the parts to fix the broken door. I also left you a repair manual, just in case you've gotten rusty. But you were always a wizard with a wrench, so I'm sure you'll be just fine. Now get going. Again unsigned, but it looks like this author was Ted's boss here at this mirelurk butchery. Ted must have been one of his only trusted employees for his boss to go into so much trouble to give him this stash. We see 2 options here: turn on backup generators, but the backup generator is a failure, and then initialize water management system, but this likewise is a failure. Total system malfunction. These features must have long since malfunctioned over the 200 years this place has been abandoned. So, we have a couple of tasks ahead of us. We need to find a floor safe inside a clinic where we'll find a door component. This will allow us to open a maintenance door in some sort of security wing, which will then allow us to open a secret stash. Well, near to this terminal, we find 2 doors, one leading to operations and one leading to the clinic. These doors are right across from Ted's body. Heading to operations first, we can explore it. We find some darts on a table along with a Vault-Tec lunchbox and another dead wastelander on the floor. We find even more blood on the bed and the floor beneath the bed. These mirelurks must have been released from their pen while these wastelanders and butchers were all sleeping. They were unprepared. Connected to this room is the clinic. We find a lot of medical and surgical equipment on the table, as well as a big stash of caps and blood packs. Beneath the table is the floor safe, which we unlocked from the terminal. Inside, we find a copy of Dean's Electronics. This is the book that the boss gave to Ted, and the door component. This is the component we need to fix the maintenance door found in the service tunnel. Now, we just need to find the maintenance door in the service tunnel and the location of the stash. After we finish looting the clinic, we can go back out to the main room. There's a stairway leading up, but we already know that this leads to the first room we explored when we entered the memorial. So back down, the only remaining door to explore is the closed door against the eastern wall to the Anchorage Memorial Facility Bay. This leads us to a large room spanning multiple floors. In the distance, we see one mirelurk hiding amongst the machinery. Moving forward, we can peer down. We see that we're on a ledge overlooking a flooded bottom floor. There are mirelurk eggs down there, and this area is large. There's a couple of floors above us as well. This bay area is like a central hub. From here, we can explore all of the different wings of this memorial facility because it connects to them all from doors on each floor. But first, let's explore the bay. Turning left and heading south, we see a stairway leading down to the floor below. From here, we can use our sniper rifle to get rid of other mirelurks we see on the floor below. Against the northern wall, we find a door to the memorial service entrance. The service tunnel is where the note told us we would find the maintenance door. We'll explore down this way in a minute, but let's just remember that we can find it on the second level. Against the eastern wall, we find a door to the memorial facility offices. We'll keep this in mind for later. Before we go up, let's go down and explore the basement. This basement level leads further down to a flooded portion, now swarming with mirelurk eggs. These mirelurk spawning pods are great for getting all sorts of mirelurk meat. The only other thing down here besides the pods is a door to the memorial service entrance against the eastern wall. Great, so now we've got two doors to the service entrance. Which one should we go through? Well, let's continue exploring this bay before we decide. Heading back upstairs to the second floor, we can take a stairway up to the third floor. Against the western wall, we find another door to the memorial facility. That's the section we've already explored, so there's no need to go back there. But we do find a stairway that takes us up to the fourth floor. Here we find a corpse. Near the corpse is a laser pistol with some energy cells, and we learn that this is the corpse of a mercenary. On his body are his orders, called Merc's Orders. By now, your handler has given you the location of the job and your basic orders. Here are the details. Traders have been making a killing with mirelurk meat, and we've been losing business because of it. One of our people got involved with a caravan supplier, and we finally know where it's all been coming from. The meat's mostly coming from one group holed up along the river smack in the middle of the ruins. There's a huge old facility under some war memorial where they've herded up a nest of mirelurks and have been breeding and butchering them. They've been in the business for months and are sure to be sitting on a pile of caps. Take what you can carry. We just want them out of the meat market. The rest is up to you. This isn't the biggest job, but pull it off clean and there's plenty more work for a man with your skills. Get back to your handler as soon as the job is done, and we'll be in touch. So this mercenary was hired by a competing mirelurk meat butchery to infiltrate the war memorial and end their business. This mercenary decided to do so by releasing the mirelurks from their pens, likely hoping that the mirelurks would just take care of everything. But it looks like this mercenary underestimated the savagery of the mirelurks, and he didn't make it out with his own life. Against a wall, we find a terminal that allows us to unlock a door, which leads us back outside to the wasteland. This takes us to the sunken door right on top of the memorial. We see the statue just off to the north. But let's go back in to finish exploring the facility. This fourth floor is the top floor of the bay, so now we have to decide which of the many doors we've so far discovered to now take. Well, to start, let's go back down to the second floor, the floor where we first arrived here in the bay, and go explore that door that was directly across from us against the eastern wall to the facility offices. Here, the first thing we see is a grisly scene hanging from the ceiling. We see a human skeleton torso embedded in something that a mirelurk must have made. A nest, a pod, some sort of warning. We can't interact with it. Opening up the door to the right, we enter the main office area. Behind one of the desks is a safe on the wall and a terminal. The terminal is locked with an average lock. Unlocking it just gives us the ability to unlock the nearby wall safe. The safe just contains some bottle caps and random loot. Heading through the northern door, we see a catastrophe. One of the floors has caved in to some sort of tunnel below. I've got my light off here because I didn't know whether or not there was going to be a mirelurk around every turn. We see all sorts of human bones. Heading down, we find ourselves in a dark cavern lit only by glowing fungus. We eventually reach some deeper water and immediately begin to take on rads. Rounding a corner, we see a mirelurk king. There are a bunch of mirelurks down here, and more mirelurk eggs than you could ever want. This is the mirelurk spawning pool. We find the bulk of the mirelurk spawning pods here, and after looting all of them, I walked away with a stack of 50 hatchling mirelurk meat and 50 plus softshell mirelurk meat. At the very end of this cavern underwater, we find a door to the wasteland. On the other side, I saw just darkness. Took me a while to realize that I had already loaded into the next zone. Swimming up, we find ourselves in the Potomac, right next to the Anchorage War Memorial. So this exit comes out through a tube, a sewer, connecting the War Memorial to the river. But we have a lot more of the War Memorial to explore, so heading back through the sewer grate, we can wind our way back through the tunnel and out the office door back to level 2 of the bay. Next, let's go back down to the basement level, the first floor of the bay, and explore that one door to the service entrance. Maybe here we can find the stash. We find mirelurk hunters here. And I did a poor job of stealth this time, so the mirelurk ran right up to me. This looks like some sort of kitchen. We find shelves toppled over with broken plates on the ground, and a bunch of mirelurk meat just littering the place. On the countertops, we find some mirelurk cakes. Maybe the Wastelanders were using this kitchen area to prepare the mirelurk meat for sale and distribution, and whip up some mirelurk cakes, either for their own consumption or maybe to sell. Behind the counter, we find yet another corpse. There's blood splatter on the ground and against the stove. Her arm is completely missing. Looks like a mirelurk crushed her against the stove and then snapped off her arm. There are 2 refrigerators against the northern wall. These are filled with mirelurk cakes and mirelurk meat. And then you'll find all sorts of whiskey, boxed food, vegetables, and other goodies on the shelves nearby. There is an upper floor to this area. We find a mirelurk on patrol. From down here, we can take care of it through our scope. Heading up the stairs to the top floor, we find another generator area. There's a big wide door against the southern wall. This leads us to that big wide door we found on the second floor of the facility bay. So that's great, now we know where this leads. But we can go back to finish exploring the service area. We see a big vent near some machines that lead up to daylight. The sun must have risen while we've been exploring down here. And then against the western wall is a locked door. We can't seem to activate it. But then we find the switch to the left. This opens the door leading to a tunnel. We know what to expect down this tunnel. We see lots of detritus and egg clutches. Rounding the corner, we can take some shots from stealth of these mirelurks. And once they're dead, we can explore. There's a lot of side passages in this sewer area. Heading down the eastern side passage, we see a door with an already dead mirelurk here. We didn't kill this mirelurk, not sure how it died. There are lots of doors here with more dead mirelurks. These must be the pens where the Wastelanders were keeping the mirelurks. The mercenary must have come down and opened only a few of these doors. Sensing the trouble he was in, he fled, trying to escape with his life, but the mirelurks killed him. But the mirelurks then killed all of the Wastelanders, leaving no one left to open the rest of these doors. The dead mirelurks we find behind each of these doors must have starved to death, with no human left alive to feed them and care for them. The mirelurks we do find must have all been released by the mercenary, or possibly even hatched between then and now. Down one of the western paths, we find another dead Wastelander right next to a door. He almost made it. This door leads us outside, and yeah, it is daylight now. This brings us to a large entrance on the northern side of the memorial with a great view of downtown DC. But we've got more to explore, so back inside, let's see if we can find that maintenance door. Turning left, we find even more Mirelurk pens with dead Mirelurks inside, until at last we find one utility door. Now, if we don't have the door components, we can use a high repair skill of 90 or more to simply repair the door. But with the door components, we still need at least 35 repair or greater to install the door component and repair the door. Once repaired, we find ourselves in a storage room with all sorts of goodies. There's a Nuka-Cola Quantum. We need to save this and not drink it, and not put it in our ice cooler, so that we can complete the Nuka-Cola Quantum Challenge that we get from Sierra Petrovita at the Nuka-Cola factory. A copy of U.S. Army 30 handy flamethrower recipes. The Tenderizer, a unique sledgehammer that does 10 more damage per attack, nearly 14 more damage per second, and 5 more critical damage than a regular sledgehammer. It also has a special ability that removes 5 damage resistance from an enemy, and the effect never wears off until the enemy dies. It doesn't look special, it looks just like a regular sledgehammer, but it's still a pretty impressive weapon. An assortment of boxes and footlockers to loot, bottle caps, scrap, and most importantly, an Anchorage War Memorial stash holotape. The stash is hidden downstairs in one of the freezers. Rocky set it up. You know his style. Don't forget the key. You'll need it to unlock the compartment. Key. Where do we find it? Oh, there it is. Right on the cutting board, we find the key. Next to even more bottle caps. Great. Well, we've got everything we need. Now we just need to find the stash. Heading back, winding through the cavern, through the wide door, we can go back to that generator room with the ceiling vent and down the stairs to the kitchen area. There was more to explore in this kitchen area. Let's try going downstairs. Maybe we'll find the refrigerator there. Heading downstairs leads us to another generator room. Then we can go through a door to kill one remaining Mirelurk. On the table next to some refrigerators, we find a bunch of Mirelurk meat, and when we try to loot one of the refrigerators, we see a note. You notice that the freezer is a little smaller than all of the others. After closer inspection, you find that there is a secret compartment in the back. Unfortunately, it is locked, and you are unable to pick it. There must be a key to open this lock. We only see this message if we have a perception of 5 or greater. Now, I got this message when I discovered the stash before finding the key, and if you do, you can still loot the refrigerator, but you can't loot the stash. But coming back to this stash with the key in hand, the key that we found in that maintenance room where we had to fix the door, we get a note saying, you use the key to unlock the secret compartment in the back of the freezer. And inside we find 220 bottle caps and a recipe for Mirelurk cakes. And now we have something we can make with all of this Mirelurk meat we've been collecting in this memorial. There is plenty of meat in all of the other fridges, and sitting out all over the place in this room. This must have been the butchery room. We find big meat hooks hanging from the ceiling. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the full story of the Anchorage War Memorial in the Capital Wastelands. We don't find any pre-war lore on any of the terminals here, so we really don't know what this facility underneath the statue was used for. But we do know that the statue had an important role as propaganda before the war and as a memorial for the fallen. And we learn just how cutthroat this post-apocalyptic world can be. 2 competing businesses trying to make a living off of Mirelurk meat, and one resorted to murder just to get to the top. This is even more evidence that a society of laws, upheld by those who enforce the law, is necessary for free trade and peace to thrive. What are your thoughts on the Anchorage War Memorial here in Fallout 3? I will be doing a bunch of videos on Fallout 3 locations, Fallout 3 lore, as well as continuing to do videos on Fallout 4 and New Vegas. Do you have any requests? Let me know in the comments section below. I read through all of your comments and I use your comments as inspiration for my future videos. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. I publish 6 new videos a week, so if you want to make sure that you don't miss my next video, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I've got a t-shirt shop, folks. If you would like an Oxhorn or a Fallout-themed t-shirt, you can find a link to my shop in the description below. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers get access to a private channel on my Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.